Billionaire husband's secret exposed, pregnant wife and mistress meet face to face. They say behind every powerful man lies a secret that could unravel his entire empire. Edward King, an ambitious billionaire gracing the cover of Forbes, seemed untouchable. He had the opulent penthouse, the sleek jets, and the devoted, pregnant wife, Lily. But hidden in the shadows was a tangled web of lies that, once exposed, threatened to shatter his picture-perfect world. As Lily discovered cryptic receipts for extravagant gifts she never received, a swirl of suspicion formed. She was about to come face to face with a mistress who carried her husband's child, igniting a storm so fierce that no amount of money could keep it contained. Lily Anderson King sat at the antique mahogany vanity in her expansive bedroom, located on the top floor of their New York City penthouse overlooking Central Park. Just a few hours earlier, she had flicked through the newest edition of Forbes, proudly reading about her husband Edward King's meteoric rise in the financial world. As the CEO of King Capital, an influential private equity firm, Edward was not only celebrated for his staggering net worth, but also for his supposed philanthropic endeavors. Lily was 6 months pregnant with their first child. She recalled how Edward had once held her face in his hands and promised her the world an everlasting devotion, a home brimming with love, and a future so bright it felt like a fairy tale. In many ways, Lily believed she had it all: wealth, beauty, an incredible marriage, everything that would make any other woman envious. Even her wedding ring was rumored to be worth a fortune, its massive diamond rumored to have come from an exclusive Argyle mine in Australia. Yet beneath this veneer of perfection, a subtle, nagging doubt had begun to gnaw at her. It started when she stumbled upon an unexplained credit card charge for a lavish bouquet from a boutique florist. A bouquet she never received. Then came the perfume bottle in Edward's glove compartment, an expensive brand Lily had never worn. She had shrugged it off, telling herself not to overreact. After all, Edward was a busy man who occasionally lent his car to colleagues and associates. The cracks were small, so small, Lily hoped they would vanish on their own. As the months wore on, those small cracks in Lily's fairy tale life widened. She couldn't quite place the source of her unease, yet when Edward's business trips grew more frequent and his phone calls became more evasive, Lily started to question if the perfect life she had was merely an illusion. Late one night, she found herself pacing the hallway, her bare feet sinking into the plush carpet, heart thudding anxiously. Edward was out once again securing a high-profile acquisition, or so he claimed. The clock read midnight. Lily's mind spiraled with questions she had never dreamed of asking. Was he really at those board meetings? Was he sharing a fancy dinner at the Ritz-Carlton with clients or someone else? Her anxiety peaked when an acquaintance from her college days reached out with a cryptic text. "I saw Edward today at L'Atelier with a stunning brunette." It looked intimate. Everything okay? Lily froze in the darkness of her penthouse, reading the message under the glow of a single lamp. She told herself not to jump to conclusions. If there was anything to it, perhaps it was just a work contact. Edward met with countless individuals for deals, journalists from the New York Times, potential investors, philanthropic donors. Lily swallowed her doubts and typed a short, polite reply. Yet something told her that an ugly truth lay just beneath the surface. Sleep was elusive that night. Each time Lily closed her eyes, visions of Edward laughing with some mysterious woman danced through her mind. She tossed and turned, haunted by whispers of betrayal. The next morning, Lily summoned her courage and confronted Edward over breakfast. He was impeccably dressed, as always, tailored suit, crisp tie, and just a hint of cologne. She slid her phone across the marble countertop, the ominous text message visible on the screen. his brow furrowed. "That's a client from overseas," he explained smoothly. "Her name is Elise Montgomery. She's from London. We're discussing investment opportunities here in New York." He even showed Lily a few business emails as evidence. For the moment, her worries were appeased. Lily felt her heart steady itself, content to believe her husband's story. She had married Edward for a reason. She wanted to trust him. Perhaps her own anxieties were amplifying small coincidences into monstrous accusations. The explanation about Elise seemed plausible, and Lily forced a smile, placing her hand on her growing belly. She needed stability, not paranoia, especially now that her child's future was at stake. But even as she nodded and acted reassured, a spark of suspicion lingered. She wanted more proof. Though she hated herself for it, Lily never wished to be that paranoid wife who rifled through her partner's belongings. Yet she felt compelled to probe deeper. Later that day, while Edward took a phone call in his study, Lily eased open one of his desk drawers. She found letters detailing investments, a contract with an upscale real estate developer, and further on, an elegant envelope bearing an unfamiliar monogram. Inside was a single photograph of a woman, flawless makeup, wavy dark hair, captivating eyes. The note read, "Thinking of you, E." At first, Lily stood frozen in place. The photograph trembled in her hands, and a cold sweat broke out along her brow. There was no need to read between the lines, "Thinking of you, E." It was not the kind of note a typical business contact would send. For a moment, Lily could not form a coherent thought. She felt betrayed, deceived, devastated. She tucked the envelope back into the drawer, trying to leave things exactly as she found them. Her heart pounded so loudly she feared Edward would hear it from his study. She took a steadying breath and forced a calm expression before tiptoeing out. Only once she was safely in the sanctuary of her own private sitting room did she crumble onto the couch, tears flooding her cheeks. For hours, Lily lay there, grappling with heartbreak. She had never truly doubted Edward before. She kept telling herself there must be some rational explanation. The note could be from a persistent admirer or an old flame from before they were married. But something told her, deep down, that this was the start of a revelation she would not be able to ignore. A swirl of questions consumed her. Who is Elise Montgomery? How long has this been going on? She stroked her belly as if to protect the innocent life within her from the storm raging in her soul. She decided then and there that she needed to learn the truth, no matter how painful it might be. Rather than confront Edward with her discovery, Lily embarked on a quiet investigation. She wanted facts, indisputable proof. She found herself combing through Edward's digital footprints when he was away, scanning his calendar for business dinners, noting the hotels he visited. It felt disloyal and invasive, but she saw no other way. He had effectively shut down her earlier questions with a well-rehearsed explanation. One evening, while scrolling through social media on her laptop, Lily came across a photograph taken at a posh charity fundraiser. The event, hosted by the Metropolitan Museum of Art, had welcomed top philanthropists from around the globe. Edward was, of course, front and center in one shot. But standing close behind him, slightly off to the side, was the same brunette from the envelope's photograph, Elise Montgomery. She wore an emerald gown that clung to her figure in an undeniably provocative way, her eyes gazing admiringly at Edward. Lily's heart clenched. She clicked on Elise's profile. It was set to private, but the profile picture, Elise and Edward with champagne flutes in hand, spoke volumes. Lily felt her chest tighten, tears threatening to break free once more. She realized this web of deception might be far more extensive than she'd imagined. With her curiosity raging, Lily decided to attend one of Edward's upcoming events unannounced. She had learned of a private investment seminar at the Waldorf Astoria, a luxurious affair where Edward was scheduled to be a keynote speaker. and she was determined to make her entrance quietly, but deliberately to see what secrets might unfold before her eyes. A few days later, Lily arrived at the Waldorf Astoria wearing a classic black maternity dress. She felt out of place among the crowd of corporate executives, hedge fund managers, and media personnel. Soft music drifted through the grand ballroom, which was adorned with lavish floral arrangements and glittering chandeliers. Lily slipped into a corner, scanning the crowd for her husband. She spotted Edward almost immediately, standing by a bar, engaged in conversation with a cluster of wealthy financiers. His confident smile looked genuine, which caused Lily's heart to twist painfully. Did he even feel a shred of remorse for the secrets he was keeping, she wondered. Then, from across the room, Lily saw her the same brunette from the photograph. Elise was poised near a row of gilded chairs, a flute of champagne in hand, eyes fixed possessively on Edward. As Lily watched Elise's gaze flicker with a mix of admiration and desire, she knew, without a shred of doubt, that this was the woman who had inserted herself into their marriage. When Elise glided across the ballroom to join Edward's circle of associates, Lily noticed an unmistakable ring on Elise's finger, a dainty diamond that gleamed under the chandelier light. A gift from Edward? The thought made Lily's stomach churn. For several agonizing minutes, she debated whether she should approach them. But Lily's bold streak overcame her fear. Steeling herself, she began to weave through the crowd toward the couple. She was determined to look Elise in the eye and claim her rightful place at Edward's side. Heart pounding, Lily sidled up behind Edward, placing her hand gently on his shoulder. He spun around, startled, his confident smile faltering the instant he recognized his wife. For a moment, Edward looked like he had seen a ghost. Elise also froze, her elegant confidence wavering. Lily offered a tight smile that could have been mistaken for politeness, if not for the fury sparking in her eyes. "Edward," she said, voice controlled, yet trembling with tension. "I had no idea this event was so exclusive." "Lily," Edward began, attempting to regain his composure. "I didn't think you'd want to come, given your condition. We were going to talk about it." Lily cut him off, turning her gaze pointedly to Elise. "And you must be Miss Montgomery, right? I've heard so much about you." Her tone dripped with sarcasm. Elise blinked, her lips parted in surprise, clearly not expecting a direct confrontation from the pregnant wife. In that moment, Lily felt a surge of power. She might be vulnerable, pregnant, and uncertain, but she refused to cower. Without waiting for a reply, Lily continued, "I see you two are very close. A lot closer than any normal client relationship would allow." Edward tried to stammer out a string of denials or justifications, but the tension was palpable. Attendees nearby sensed the sudden electricity in the air. Some turned their heads, drawn by the possibility of a scandal. Lily met Elise's gaze dead on. "If you've got something to say to me," Lily challenged, "say it to my face." For a stretched moment, Elise remained silent, her polished poise cracking under Lily's intense stare. Then Elise raised her chin, mustering an aloof confidence. "I'm sorry," she said sweetly, not bothering to conceal the insincerity in her voice. "We didn't mean to catch you off guard. Edward was just showing me around. This is a major opportunity for my business expansions." "Oh, I'm sure he's showing you around quite thoroughly," Lily snapped. A faint hush fell over the small circle of onlookers who happened to be near enough to overhear. Edward glanced anxiously around, aware that this confrontation was rapidly spiraling beyond his control. He stepped in to defuse the situation. "Lily, let's talk about this in private," he urged, placing a hand on her arm. She shrugged him off with a glare that could have cut glass. Elise's lips curved into a smirk. "I respect your marriage," she declared with an airy shrug, "but business is business, and Edward and I do have some pressing matters to finalize." If you'll excuse me." She pivoted gracefully, tossed a purposeful glance at Edward, and walked away, her heels clicking against the marble floor. Lily burned with both anger and humiliation. She had come to make a statement, but Elise's icy dismissal left her feeling even more unsettled. This woman was confident enough to challenge Lily's place. Lily could sense that Elise wasn't merely a fling. She was after more, perhaps the entire empire that Edward had built. Back at home later that night, Lily demanded answers from Edward. She insisted he tell her the truth about Elise. Edward, cornered, dropped the polished facade he had perfected in front of clients and board members. He first tried to downplay the situation. "It's complicated," he muttered, loosening his tie with a shaking hand. "Elise is an important investor. We've developed a personal rapport, but it's strictly for business. She wants a deeper partnership with King Capital." Lily's voice trembled. "Are you sleeping with her?" The words hung in the air, raw and shocking. Edward pressed his lips together, eyes flickering with guilt. "It's not what you think," he began, but Lily felt tears burning the corners of her eyes. She could tell by his reaction that the truth was close at hand, and it was ugly. "I found the photograph in your drawer," she stated flatly, refusing to let him twist the narrative. She wrote, "Thinking of you, E. That's not something an investor writes to a fund manager." Edward sighed heavily, rubbing his temples. "I made a mistake, Lily. I never meant for it to go this far. It started off as flirting, but then his explanation faltered as he sensed Lily's heartbreak. She threatened to pull her investments if I didn't maintain a personal relationship." Lily recoiled. "So you sold your loyalty to the highest bidder?" She stood in front of him, one hand protectively over her pregnant belly, as if shielding her unborn child from the ugliness. The man she had adored had revealed a side she never wanted to see. For a few agonizing minutes, Lily considered leaving. She thought about packing a suitcase, calling a car, and disappearing to her parents' home in Connecticut. But she was pregnant, exhausted, and still deeply in love with the man standing before her. She yearned for him to show genuine remorse, to fight for her and their unborn child. Edward dropped to his knees in front of Lily, tears shining in his eyes. "I swear I'm going to end it," he said, desperation lacing his voice. "I was foolish. I just didn't want to lose the business deal. Our entire expansion relies on her capital infusion. Without Elise, the new acquisitions will collapse. It could bankrupt us." Lily felt her heart ache at his words. On one hand, she despised him for letting lust and perhaps greed lure him away from her. On the other, she could see genuine fear in his eyes, fear of losing his empire, fear of losing his family. She let out a shaky breath and helped Edward to his feet. "You need to fix this," she told him, her voice trembling with quiet resolve. "My priority is our child. You need to walk away from Elise, both personally and professionally." "I will not share my husband with anyone," Edward nodded, looking like a broken man. Lily believed for one fragile moment that he might truly come to his senses. But she was yet to discover that Elise held more than just financial leverage. She held a secret that threatened to devastate everything Lily thought she knew. Unbeknownst to Lily, Elise was formulating her own plans. She had never intended to remain a mistress lurking on the periphery of Edward's life. For Elise, landing a man as wealthy and connected as Edward King was a calculated stepping stone to power and influence. Sure, the physical attraction was part of it, but she was far more enamored with the doors he could open, the prestige of being on his arm, the possibility that she might one day become his wife instead of just a secret affair. In fact, Elise had secured her foothold in Edward's life so effectively that even if he wanted to cut ties, it wouldn't be simple. She had introduced a wave of foreign investments into King Capital, money that kept Edward's expansion afloat. If he cut her off, she would withdraw every penny. She might even leverage her knowledge of shady deals to publicly ruin him. But Elise had an even bigger trump card. She stood in front of a floor-to-ceiling mirror in her lavish midtown apartment, a sleek pregnancy test gripped in her trembling hand. The test displayed a faint but unmistakable pink line. Her pulse pounded. She closed her eyes, letting the truth sink in. She was pregnant with Edward's child. Elise's lips curved into a cunning smile. This development didn't terrify her. It thrilled her. She would no longer be just a plaything in Edward's life. If he tried to leave her, she would reveal the entire story, the affair, the potential paternity battle, everything. Her plan was set in motion. A few days later, Lily planned a romantic dinner at home, hoping to repair the cracks in their marriage. The staff prepared an elegant candlelit meal, and Lily wore a flowing silk dress that accentuated her pregnancy glow. Edward seemed anxious yet determined to make amends, kissing her cheek and whispering how grateful he was that she was giving him a chance. They were halfway through the main course when Edward's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and paled. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," he murmured, stepping away from the table. Lily watched his retreating figure with a sinking heart. She waited quietly, hands clasped over her belly, a swirl of dread overtaking her appetite. When Edward returned, his expression was grim. "That was Elise," he confessed. "She wants to meet." Lily's heart pounded. "What does she want from you now?" He swallowed. "She says she has news." It sounded urgent. Lily's mind raced with the worst scenarios. "You told me you'd cut ties with her." "I know," Edward said, guilt carved into his features. "But I need to find out what's going on. If she's planning to pull her investments, or if she's threatening us financially, I need to contain the fallout." Lily closed her eyes, her throat tight with anguish. "Go," she finally said, her voice raw. "But understand, Edward, this is the last time. If you don't shut her out of our lives, you lose me." Her ultimatum was unwavering. Edward nodded, tension radiating off him, and left to face the storm he had created. Edward arrived at Elise's sleek penthouse, braced for a confrontation. The space was all polished marble and minimalist design, a reflection of Elise's modern, luxurious taste. She was waiting for him in the living room, wearing a form-fitting dress. Her expression was triumphant. "Elise, I told you," Edward began in a hushed tone. "This affair is over." Elise raised an eyebrow. "Funny you should phrase it that way, Edward, because some things never truly end." She extended a small envelope toward him. Inside lay the unmistakable photograph of a positive pregnancy test. Edward's heart lurched. "I'm pregnant," Elise stated calmly, her gaze locking onto Edward's. "And I don't plan to hide it, especially if you refuse to see reason." Edward's breath caught. How far along?" "About 7 weeks," she said, strolling across the room until she was close enough for Edward to smell her floral perfume. "It could be yours. Actually, it is yours, and we both know it. Now, you can try to pay me off, or you can do the right thing." Edward felt panic surge. "Elise, you can't be serious. I have a wife. Lily is pregnant too." "This is insane." Elise's tone hardened. "You think I want to remain your dirty secret?" "I could go public. Imagine the scandal, the meltdown. King Capital stock would plummet. Investors would flee. Your squeaky, clean, philanthropic image would be tarnished forever. If you want me to keep this quiet, you're going to have to choose, and quickly." Caught in the crosshairs of a ruthless dilemma, Edward hardly slept that night. He returned home to find Lily already in bed, her eyes swollen from tears. As he crept in beside her, guilt gnawed at him so fiercely he could scarcely breathe. He knew he had to say something, but the words twisted in his throat. He couldn't bring himself to reveal Elise's pregnancy, at least. Not yet. Instead, he lay there, staring at the ceiling, dreading the moment when his world would inevitably collapse. The following morning, Lily woke to find Edward hunched over in the kitchen, hands buried in his hair. She approached cautiously. "Edward, is something else wrong?" She could sense a heavier burden on him. He looked up, eyes filled with despair. "Elise is threatening to destroy everything, Lily. She's not letting me walk away." His voice quaked, and Lily's heart hammered with renewed fear. She gently placed her hand on his shoulder. "Then we need to fight back. Legally, financially, whatever it takes. But I won't share you with her. I refuse to live in that kind of pain." Edward nodded, swallowing back tears. "I'm going to handle it," he promised, though he knew the promise was hollow without full disclosure. Lily, unaware of the other pregnancy, offered what comfort she could, but a cold sense of impending disaster coiled inside her. She recognized that Edward was drowning in secrets he couldn't keep, and eventually those secrets would devour them both. Out of desperation, Lily confided in her lifelong best friend, Ava Phillips. A sharp-minded lawyer who had graduated from Harvard Law School, Ava had always been the voice of reason in Lily's life. Over coffee in a private corner of Lily's penthouse, she listened to the horrifying story of Edward's affair with Elise. Lily left out no details. She needed advice, raw and unfiltered. Ava pursed her lips. "So, this Elise woman is basically blackmailing Edward with the threat of withdrawing major investments from King Capital unless he continues the relationship. That's more than just an affair, it's extortion. Edward refuses to call it that," Lily said, voice trembling. "He insists it started consensually, but now he's entangled in a business relationship that he can't easily sever." Ava's eyes narrowed. "He needs to cut ties anyway. If her capital is integral to the expansion, he might have to let that expansion go. His personal integrity and your marriage are far more important. I can't believe he let it get this far." Lily sighed, tears threatening. "I don't know what to do, Ava. I love him, but I can't live with this looming over us. I want him to come clean. I want him to fight, or walk away from the money, or do whatever it takes to protect our child." Ava leaned forward and took Lily's hand. "Whatever happens, I've got your back. Let me make a few calls. If Elise tries to sabotage you legally, I'll be there to push back. Hang in there, Lily." Days passed, and Lily tried to keep her composure, but the tension remained thick as a thundercloud in the penthouse. She tried to immerse herself in baby preparations, decorating the nursery, choosing soft pastel colors, reading parenting books. Yet every time she caught a glimpse of Edward, she saw the haunted look in his eyes. One afternoon, as she was arranging tiny onesies in a drawer, Lily's phone lit up with an unknown number. With a sinking feeling, she answered. The voice on the other end made her blood run cold. "Hello, Lily," came Elise's silky tone. "I'm sure you know who this is." Lily's hand shook, and she gripped the phone tighter. "What do you want?" A soft laugh echoed through the speaker. "I want a civil conversation. Let's meet just us girls. I think it's time we talk about Edward and your baby, and maybe another baby." Lily's heart pounded violently. "I'm not interested in whatever manipulation you're planning." "Suit yourself," Elise replied. "But if you don't meet with me, I'll assume you're happy being kept in the dark. You'll regret that later, Lily. The first, guarantee it." Before Lily could respond, Elise ended the call. The silence that followed felt suffocating. Lily sank to the edge of the bed, mind racing. What did Elise mean by maybe another baby? Could she actually be pregnant with Edward's child? Lily felt her pulse skyrocket, a swirl of rage, betrayal, and maternal protectiveness surging through her. She needed answers, once and for all. Lily chose a quiet corner table in an upscale cafe in Soho for the meeting. She had arrived early, wearing a loose sweater and maternity jeans, trying her best to cloak her nerves. Elise swept in 10 minutes later, wearing a fitted designer dress that flaunted her figure, a sharp contrast to Lily's maternal softness. They sat across from each other, two women carrying Edward King's future in their wombs, albeit under vastly different circumstances. Elise regarded Lily with a cool, almost predatory stare. "Shall we order first?" Elise asked, scanning the menu with disinterest. Lily cut right to the chase. "Are you pregnant with Edward's child?" Elise's eyes flickered. "Yes," she replied, her voice devoid of shame. "About 8 weeks along. I have the paperwork from my doctor if you'd like proof." Lily felt a wave of nausea. She pressed a hand to her belly, steadied herself, then forced the question that had been haunting her. "What do you want from us?" Elise sighed dramatically. "I want Edward to honor his responsibilities. For starters, financial support for me and the baby. But more than that, I want a seat at the table. If Edward is going to run off playing the perfect husband to you, I won't sit quietly. I deserve recognition, especially since he promised me." "Promised you what?" Lily's voice was brittle with pain. Elise leaned forward, a wicked gleam in her eye. "He promised me we'd be together. He said he loved me, said he was falling out of love with you. How does that feel, Lily?" Lily felt her self-control unravel. Elise's declaration stung like 1,000 needles, but Lily refused to grant Elise the satisfaction of a full-blown meltdown in public. Instead, she summoned a tight composure. "Edward and I have been married for 3 years," she said, carefully enunciating each word. "We have built a life together. He is the father of my child. Whatever he told you, he will not leave me for you. Our marriage isn't perfect, but I will fight for it." Elise arched a brow, swirling her coffee in a leisurely manner. "You're underestimating me. I have the power to ruin him. You see, Edward was stupid enough to sign certain documents. Let's just say not all of them are above board. If he deserts me, I'll expose everything, and King Capital will drown under legal scrutiny." Lily's stomach churned. She realized that Edward's empire truly hung by a thread. "Is blackmail how you want to raise your child?" she asked, voice trembling with both revulsion and sadness. Elise shrugged. "I prefer to call it insurance. For the record, Lily, I'm not trying to be the homewrecker you might think I am. I'm just a woman who knows what she wants. And I want Edward to pay what he owes me for the baby, for the promises he made, for the future he dangled in front of me." With that, Elise stood, dropped some cash on the table, and left. Lily remained frozen in her seat, heartbreak and fury waging war within her. She realized that this was no simple love triangle. It was a ticking time bomb, and Elise was holding the detonator. When Lily returned home, Edward was waiting anxiously in the foyer. The moment she walked in, he could see the devastation on her face. "You met Elise," he said, voice laced with dread. Lily nodded, tears brimming. "She's pregnant," she whispered. "With your child." Edward's face went ashen. He didn't deny it. Instead, he slumped against the wall, guilt radiating off him in palpable waves. "I swear, Lily, I never meant for this to happen. It was a horrible mistake. A drunken lapse of judgment that went on far too long. But she's manipulative, and I—" "Save it," Lily said hoarsely, raising a trembling hand. "Do you love her? Did you tell her you were falling out of love with me?" Edward's eyes widened in dismay. "No!" "Lily, I love you. I might have said stupid things in the heat of passion, or to keep her from withdrawing her money, but it was never real. I was never going to leave you." The anguish in Lily's heart intensified. She believed part of him, but the betrayal was so profound she could barely breathe. "She's threatening to expose illegal dealings that could destroy King Capital. Is that true?" Edward dropped his gaze. There are questionable agreements I signed to secure her investments. Nothing strictly illegal, but shady enough to spark investigations. If she leaks them, we could lose everything." Lily stared at him, tears spilling over. "You already lost everything, Edward," she whispered, "because you broke us." As the days turned into weeks, Edward spiraled into damage control mode. He met with lawyers, financial advisors, and crisis PR experts, all while trying to keep Lily from walking out the door. He pleaded for her forgiveness, swearing he would fix the mess if she gave him a chance. Lily, numb with heartbreak, kept to herself. She attended prenatal checkups alone, rarely spoke at length with Edward, and confided only in Ava for emotional support. The dream nursery, once a joyful project, felt like a distant memory. She couldn't shake the image of Elise's smug face, the memory of that faint pink line on the pregnancy test. One afternoon, Edward revealed a plan he concocted with his legal team: pay Elise a substantial sum, complete with a carefully drafted non-disclosure agreement in exchange for her silence and her agreement to relinquish any claims against King Capital. The baby, however, was another story. Legally, Edward would be obligated to pay child support if paternity was confirmed. He intended to handle that quietly, to avoid media frenzy. Lily listened, arms folded protectively over her belly. "You think you can just pay her off and be done?" she asked, her voice weary. "What if she refuses? What if she wants more than money?" Edward brushed a hand over his face in frustration. "I'm trying every option here, Lily. Please, just trust me to handle it." Lily gave him a bitter smile. "That's what I did when you started seeing her, and look where we are." Edward's legal team reached out to Elise with the proposed settlement, hoping she would accept a hefty payout in return for silence and a discreet arrangement for child support. But Elise was quick to show that her ambitions went beyond mere money. She had already tested a taste of power, of being intimately linked to a man of Edward's stature, and she wanted more. Elise responded with a curt letter through her own attorney. She demanded an executive position at King Capital, a public acknowledgement from Edward that the child was his, and a lump sum that far exceeded Edward's initial offer. It was outrageous, an ultimatum that reeked of blackmail. Panicked, Edward arranged a meeting with Elise and her legal counsel at an upscale law office in Midtown. Lily insisted she come along. She refused to be sidelined from decisions that would impact her future. When they arrived, Elise's cool confidence was on full display. She sauntered into the boardroom, stiletto heels clicking on polished floors, carrying herself like a queen who knew she owned the room. Her lawyer presented a series of demands, each more brazen than the last. Edward's attorney vehemently argued back, citing extortion laws and the potential ramifications for Elise if she went public. Elise merely shrugged, pointing out that a well-placed scandal could bankrupt King Capital, leaving Edward with nothing but tarnished pride. All the while, Lily sat silent, seething. She felt as if her life had become a chessboard, with Elise maneuvering to take the king while the Queen Lily was forced to watch the spectacle unfold. After the disastrous negotiation, Lily reached her breaking point. She packed a bag and left for her parents' estate in Connecticut, seeking refuge from the suffocating tension. Edward pleaded for her to stay, but Lily felt she had no choice. She needed space to think, to breathe, to protect her unborn child from the constant turmoil. In the warmth of her childhood bedroom, Lily finally felt safe enough to sob without restraint. Her mother held her, stroking her hair as if she were a child once more. "Oh, sweetheart, you need to look after yourself first. Forget the scandal. Forget King Capital. Focus on your health and the baby." Lily nodded between muffled sobs. Despite the heartbreak, she resolved to regain her strength. Perhaps she needed to consult with Ava about divorce options. Could she raise her child alone? She had her own inheritance and was no stranger to wealth, so financially she wouldn't be destitute. Emotionally, however, the mere idea of severing ties with Edward left her feeling hollow. Meanwhile, Edward bombarded her phone with messages, each more desperate than the last. "I love you. I need you. Elise is out of control. I'm sorry, Lily." Lily stared at the messages, torn between lingering love and a deep well of anger. She longed for the day when this nightmare would be over, but she sensed it was only spiraling further out of control. Just when Lily thought matters couldn't get any worse, news broke in the financial press. Billionaire Edward King under scrutiny for questionable deals. The New York Times ran a front-page article detailing anonymous sources revealing how Edward had skirted ethical boundaries to secure large foreign investments. Though no names were directly mentioned, Lily recognized Elise's handiwork. She immediately called Edward. He answered in a trembling voice, "She leaked it. Lily, I know it was Elise. She wants to show me she means business. The board is in a frenzy. The authorities might open an investigation. Our stock has already dropped 10%. Lily closed her eyes. She felt no satisfaction at Edward's downfall, only anguish. Despite her anger, she couldn't deny the pang in her heart for the man she loved. "What are you going to do?" "I have no choice," Edward rasped. "I need to make a public statement. I might have to resign as CEO to save the company." He paused, voice cracking. "It's everything I worked for, Lily. I messed up so badly." Lily felt tears course down her cheeks again. The heartbreak was relentless. "Is it worth it?" she asked softly. "Is King Capital worth all this misery?" He hesitated, then whispered, "Nothing is worth losing you." The line went silent. Lily realized just how dire the situation had become. Edward was on the brink financially, legally, emotionally, and Elise showed no intention of stopping until she got what she wanted: total control or absolute ruin. Sometimes it is only when life is in free fall that people discover their true priorities. With scandal exploding in the press and Lily absent from his side, Edward found himself at a crossroads. He stood on the balcony of King Capital's offices, gazing at the Manhattan skyline he once dominated with unwavering confidence. Now, every glimmering light reminded him of how far he had fallen. He dialed Lily's number. Though she answered with caution, he spoke with honesty he hadn't shown in months. "I'm resigning, Lily," he said flatly. "I'm stepping down as CEO. I'll appoint someone else to stabilize the company. I've made arrangements to buy out Elise's shares at a significant loss. But I need to cut her off entirely. I can't keep living like this." Lily listened, breath catching at the gravity of his decision. She heard something in his voice, a sense of resolve, and perhaps the faintest glimmer of genuine regret and transformation. "Edward," she began, torn between lingering love and fresh wounds. Before she could speak further, Edward added, "I'm going to sign over partial ownership of King Capital to you, Lily. Even if you choose to divorce me, I want you and the baby to be secure. You have every right to hate me, but I want you to know I'm willing to lose everything to fix this. I'm done letting Elise control me." In that moment, Lily felt a shift, as though the storm clouds had parted just enough to let in a single ray of light. She wasn't sure if it was forgiveness or pity, but she felt her heart stir, uncertain but no longer numb. When Elise received notice of Edward's resignation and the buyout offer, she reacted with fury. This wasn't the outcome she had planned on. She had expected Edward to cling to his power and wealth, to do anything to preserve his empire, including staying in her orbit. Instead, he was walking away, effectively rendering her leverage meaningless. In a final, desperate attempt to maintain control, Elise went public with the paternity claim. She leaked intimate photos of herself and Edward to the tabloids, along with insinuations that he had fathered her child. By then, Edward had already stepped down, and King Capital's newly installed leadership team was scrambling to clean up the public relations nightmare. But the real damage was personal. Lily saw the leaked photos, grainy, candid images of Edward and Elise in passionate embraces. She felt the impact like a physical blow, even though she already knew of their affair. Seeing it plastered across tabloids stung her pride, mocking her earlier illusions of a devoted husband. The scandal raged on social media, with commentators pitying Lily and branding Elise as a gold digger. Others excoriated Edward for embodying the stereotype of a powerful man indulging in extramarital affairs. A paparazzo even snapped a shot of Lily leaving her doctor's office, her tear-stained face confirming the emotional toll. The public devoured the drama, but Lily simply prayed for an end to this ordeal. She found herself wishing she could hold her baby close in her arms and shield him or her from the world's cruelty. Just as Lily reached another emotional low, a surprising ally emerged from the chaos: Elise's ex-boyfriend, a man named Devin Shaw. He contacted Lily's best friend, Ava, claiming he had information that could halt Elise's rampage. Lily and Edward met Devin at AVA's law firm under strict confidentiality. Devin was tall, with a brooding demeanor that suggested he had stories to tell. He laid out a series of documents on the table: financial statements, text message transcripts, and even a damning video clip. "These show Elise's pattern," Devin explained quietly. "She targets wealthy men, manipulates them into compromising positions, then uses leverage, pregnancy, scandal, blackmail to secure a financial windfall. She tried something similar with me, but I wasn't rich enough to make her efforts worthwhile. She left me when she found a bigger fish." Lily's breath caught as she skimmed the transcripts, which showed Elise openly discussing strategies to trap Edward. There was even a mention of forging certain financial documents to inflate the sense of crisis. "Is she truly pregnant with my child?" Edward asked, eyes flickering with hope that maybe he'd been played. Devin shrugged. "She might be pregnant, but there's a possibility that the father isn't you. She was seeing someone else, a potential investor, or fling around the same time. I can't say for certain, but if you demand a paternity test, you'll likely see the truth." Lily and Edward exchanged a shocked glance. For the first time in months, a tangible sense of relief crept into Lily's chest. Perhaps, just perhaps, there was a way out of this nightmare. Buoyed by the new evidence, Edward and Lily confronted Elise. Through their lawyers, they demanded an immediate paternity test, threatening to expose Elise's manipulations if she refused. Elise, sensing her carefully spun web unraveling, lashed out publicly. She doubled down on her claims that Edward was the father, that she and Edward had a real relationship, and that Lily was merely a bitter wife, unwilling to face reality. The media frenzy escalated, but behind closed doors, Lily felt a growing sense of empowerment. She watched Edward stand firm for once, refusing to be cowed by Elise's threats. He no longer cowered in guilt. Instead, he embraced the possibility that Elise's pregnancy might be a deception, or that, at the very least, it might not be his child. In a moment of rare tenderness, Edward found Lily in the nursery. She had started decorating again, a pastel wonderland of soft blues, yellows, and greens. He placed a tentative hand on Lily's shoulder. "I know it may be too late for us," he murmured, "but I want you to know how sorry I am. This scandal, it's my fault. I hate that I've dragged you and our baby through this. But I'm trying, really trying to make it right." Lily turned, tears shining in her eyes. "I see you trying. I just don't know if I can forget it all. Trust doesn't magically heal overnight." Edward nodded. "I understand." Yet in the silence that followed, there was a flicker of hope. Maybe broken things could be pieced back together if there was enough effort and truth at last. 2 weeks later, the paternity test results came in. Lily stood at Edward's side, bracing herself for whatever the envelope might reveal. With shaking hands, Edward tore it open, scanning the document. A burst of relief washed over his features. He passed the paper to Lily, who read the bold text: "Probability of paternity, 0%. Lily's knees nearly gave out. The baby Elise was carrying was not Edward's. Every tension in Lily's body eased, replaced by a rush of disbelief and cautious relief. Edward exhaled a choked laugh, tears brimming in his eyes. "All this time," he murmured, "it was a lie." Ava, who was present, quickly regained composure. "We can use this to legally dismiss Elise's claims. She's defrauded you, and given the extortion attempts, we can press charges or at least threaten them in negotiations to keep her at bay." Edward hugged Lily impulsively, clinging to the woman he had wronged but still adored. For a moment, Lily's heart softened, and she let herself lean into his embrace. Elise's hold on their marriage, their future, had been severed. The weight of despair that had hung over them for so long finally lifted. In the following days, Elise's credibility was shattered. She went into hiding as media outlets turned on her, labeling her a con artist. King Capital's stock slowly stabilized under new leadership, and Edward faced numerous questions about his involvement. Yet the public furor began to die down, overshadowed by another scandal in the relentless news cycle. Eventually, the path for Edward and Lily to move forward opened, though whether they'd traverse it together remained uncertain. Elise, cornered and publicly disgraced, still attempted one final gambit. She filed a civil suit claiming that Edward had promised her certain financial benefits in exchange for exclusive investment deals. However, with Devin's evidence and the paternity test results, her case crumbled quickly. The judge dismissed her claims, and the threat of countersuits loomed over Elise like a guillotine. In the end, Elise slunk away, her once confident facade shattered. She had lost her credibility, her financial leverage, and the illusions she had built around being the future Mistress Edward King. Karma, it seemed, had come swiftly and ruthlessly. Edward, meanwhile, paid steep penalties for his questionable business practices, though he avoided criminal charges. He was effectively removed from the helm of King Capital, forced to watch a new CEO run the company he had built from the ground up. The empire he once thought untouchable was no longer his, at least not in the same way. Lily observed these consequences with mixed emotions. She couldn't deny feeling a measure of grim satisfaction that Edward was finally answering for his sins. Perhaps the only path for them to heal was through this purging of secrets and arrogance. Whether they could rebuild trust was another matter altogether. One evening, Edward arrived at her parents' estate, subdued and full of remorse. "I've lost everything but you," he said quietly, "and I wouldn't blame you if you never wanted to see me again. But I love you. I love our child. I'm begging for another chance." In the soft glow of her parents' living room lamp, Lily studied Edward, his shoulders hunched, his face drawn with regret. For a moment, she remembered the man she fell in love with, ambitious, charming, and unshakably confident. This man before her had been humbled by shame, stripped of his illusions of invincibility. Tears pricked her eyes. "You betrayed me," she whispered. "You broke the vows we made." "I won't pretend I can get over that easily." Edward stepped closer, voice trembling. "I know. I don't expect you to forget. But if there's any part of you that can forgive, I want to spend the rest of my life showing you I've changed." Lily felt the baby move inside her, reminding her that life went on, love could be renewed, and second chances, while not guaranteed, could hold incredible power. Slowly, Lily extended her hand. "If you truly want to fix this, we do it together. Counseling, therapy, whatever it takes." No more secrets. Edward's eyes shone with hope. He gently cupped Lily's cheeks, pressing his forehead against hers. "I promise," he said, voice breaking. "No more secrets, ever." Their embrace felt like both an ending and a beginning. A closing of one chapter of betrayal and the opening of another chapter, one that would demand honesty, compassion, and the willingness to rebuild something they once believed unbreakable. Thank you for joining me on this emotional journey of betrayal, heartbreak, and redemption. We witnessed Lily's brave resolve to protect her unborn child, Edward's painful fall from grace, and the final unmasking of Elise's deceitful schemes. In the end, both betrayal and secrets were laid bare, proving that even the mightiest empire can crumble when built upon lies. Through the tears, drama, and twists, Lily and Edward's story reminds us of the resilience of the human heart and the transformative power of truth. If you found yourself gripped by the suspense or moved by the powerful emotions in this story, I invite you to hit that like button, share it with fellow drama enthusiasts, and subscribe to my channel. Your support inspires more captivating tales where justice and karma prevail, no matter how dark the storms may seem. Thank you for watching.